Daniel Carter had been walking alone through the ruins of the outpost for hours. The sky above was heavy and gray, the clouds swirling like thick smoke, and the air smelled of old metal and dust. The colony had sent him to check the place for anything useful: broken machines, old records, even scraps of metal they could melt down and use. But the more Daniel searched, the more he felt the ruins were not only abandoned. They felt alive, as if someone or something was watching him. The outpost was not human in design. The walls were built from black stone fused with strange metals that reflected light like glass. Curved corridors stretched into silence, and glowing marks on the walls pulsed faintly as if remembering a time when the place had not been broken. Daniel's boots echoed as he stepped, his flashlight cutting through the shadows. He told himself it was just another job. He was good at this: exploring, repairing, scavenging. The colony depended on people like him to keep things running. Still, there was a strange tension in his chest as he moved deeper into the ruined halls. Then he heard it. A faint hum, not mechanical, not wind. Something alive. Daniel froze. His hand went to his sidearm, though he did not draw it. Carefully, he followed the sound. The hum grew stronger, mixing with a faint whisper like a voice too soft to hear clearly. Turning a corner, he found a chamber larger than the others. At its center stood a cage of pure light, an energy cell glowing pale blue, and inside was someone. It was a woman. At least she looked like one. Her form was tall and slender, her skin pale with a faint shimmer under the cell's glow. Her hair fell in dark waves around her face, though streaked with dust. Her clothing was torn, a strange mixture of woven fabric and metal plates, nothing like anything Daniel had seen before. She sat with her knees drawn close, eyes shut tight, as though trying to preserve her strength. Daniel's breath caught. An alien. A living one. The colony's leaders had always warned of dangers beyond the borders. They spoke of tribes, hostile, forces, raiders who did not forgive strangers. To see one here, imprisoned and abandoned, filled Daniel with a flood of questions. Who had trapped her? Why was she here? Was she dangerous? As if sensing his presence, her eyes opened. They glowed faintly, not with light but with depth, like dark oceans reflecting starlight. She stared at him in silence, no fear, no threat, just waiting. Daniel's grip on his sidearm tightened. He should leave. He should report this. But something inside him resisted. She did not look like a threat. She looked tired, hurt, alone. For a long moment, neither spoke. The energy field hummed, and the alien woman finally moved. She raised one trembling hand and touched the glowing wall of the cell. Her lips parted, and though the words were broken, he understood. Release. Please. Daniel's heart pounded. He took a step closer, studying the cell. It was powered by a device connected to the floor, something old but still working. He crouched beside it, running his hand along the control panel. Strange symbols marked the surface, most of which he did not understand. But the power flow was clear enough. "Why are you here?" he asked softly, almost whispering. The alien tilted her head as though struggling to form words. Taken. Hurt. Left. Her voice was quiet, filled with weight, each word sounding heavy with pain. Daniel swallowed. If she had been captured by raiders, then abandoned here, that meant she was no enemy. She was a prisoner left to die. The right choice was to leave her. That was what the colony would say. Do not interfere, do not risk bringing danger home. But as he looked at her again, at the way her shoulders sagged, at the quiet dignity she carried even in her suffering, Daniel felt something break inside. He had always believed humans were not meant to turn away from others. Not here, not in the cold reaches of space where kindness was more rare than oxygen. He drew a slow breath. If I let you out, what will you do? Her eyes met his, steady. Now. Gone. No harm. Daniel studied her for a long moment, then looked back at the control panel. It would be easy to walk away. Easier than explaining this later. But the image of leaving her behind gnawed at him. He had never been the kind of man to leave someone in a cage. His fingers moved. The control panel lit up as he pressed a sequence of symbols. The hum of the energy field grew louder, then sputtered. Blue light flickered and the cell walls dissolved like mist. The alien woman collapsed forward, breathing hard. Free, at last. Daniel stepped back, uncertain. She slowly pushed herself to her feet, still unsteady. For a moment she looked around, the chamber, then back at him. Their eyes met again. She did not speak this time. Instead, she gave a single, slow nod. It was not the nod of a prisoner to her rescuer. It was the nod of someone acknowledging a choice made, one she would not forget. Then she turned. Without a word, she moved to the shadows at the edge of the chamber. Her figure melted into the dark hallways beyond, leaving Daniel alone once more. Gax, silence returned, broken only by the soft echo of her footsteps fading into nothing. Daniel stood still for a long time, his mind racing. He had just made a choice that could change everything. The colony would not understand. Perhaps they would call it foolish. Perhaps they would call it betrayal. But as he stared at the space where the cell had been, Daniel felt no regret. He holstered his sidearm, turned off his flashlight, and began the long walk back to the colony. Still, even as he left the ruins, he could not shake the feeling that this was not the end. Somewhere out there beyond the forest and the endless plains, she was free. And something deep inside told him he had not seen the last of her. The colony was quiet that night when Daniel returned. He moved through the gates without drawing attention, his boots leaving a trail of dust across the packed ground. The walls of the colony were high and sharp, built from layers of scavenged steel meant to keep out raiders and wild creatures that hunted in the dark. Guards nodded at him, their faces hidden beneath helmets, but none asked where he had been. Daniel was grateful. He was not ready to answer questions. Inside his small quarters, he sat heavily on the edge of his cot, rubbing his hands together. He could not forget her eyes, not alien, not human, just tired eyes that had asked for mercy. He had given it, and now the weight of that choice pressed on him. He stared at the metal wall in front of him, waiting for guilt to come, but it never did. Instead, a strange calm filled him. He had done the right thing. Still, the unease would not leave. What if she told her people? What if they came for him, or worse, for the colony? He lay down but did not sleep. His thoughts wandered to the ruins, the faint hum of the cage and her soft voice asking him to release her. The following morning, Daniel went about his duties as usual. He worked with a group repairing a broken water purifier near the colony's edge. The sun was pale and weak, shining through a haze that never seemed to lift. His hands worked with wires and tools, but his mind drifted. "Something on your mind?" asked Marcus, a fellow mechanic, wiping sweat from his brow. Daniel shook his head quickly. "Just tired." Marcus gave a short laugh. "We're all tired. You should get some rest after this shift. You look like you've seen a ghost." Daniel forced a smile, but deep inside he wondered if Marcus was closer to the truth than he realized. He had seen something. Someone. Not a ghost, but just as haunting. That night, as he walked back from the workshed, Daniel felt a prickle at the back of his neck. He paused. The path behind him was empty, the colony silent except for the distant sound of machinery and the occasional bark of orders from the guards. Yet something about the air felt different, watchful. The next day passed in much the same way. Daniel worked, ate, and kept to himself. But the feeling followed him. It was subtle, shadows moving where they shouldn't, faint sounds just beyond hearing, a sense that he was never truly alone. He did not tell anyone. How could he? No one would believe him. On the third evening, he finally broke his silence. He climbed the colony wall at dusk, staring out over the endless stretch of forest and plains. The sky burned orange as the sun sank low, casting long shadows across the land. He leaned on the rail, scanning the distance. "Are you out there?" he whispered. "Or is it just my mind?" The wind carried no answer, only the rustling of leaves and the distant cry of some wild creature. Days passed, and the unease grew. Daniel thought he saw her once, just for a moment, a faint figure between the trees watching him as he worked outside the walls. But when he blinked, she was gone. At night, he dreamed of her. He dreamed of the cage, of her hand against the glowing wall, and of her eyes meeting his. In the dream, she spoke words he could not understand, words that echoed like music, and when he woke, his chest ached with an emptiness he could not name. The colony continued as normal. Children played in the dirt streets, traders brought goods from other settlements, and the council argued over resources as they always did. Life was ordinary, but Daniel felt apart from it now. Different. He carried a secret no one else could share, and it weighed on him. One evening, Marcus stopped by his quarters again. "You've been quiet lately," he said, leaning against the doorway. "Too quiet. Something's wrong, isn't it?" Daniel hesitated, then shook his head. "Nothing. I can explain." Marcus frowned but let it go. He trusted Daniel, but he also knew some burdens were too heavy to share. That night, Daniel sat awake, listening to the hum of the generators outside his window. He could not shake the thought that freeing her had set something in motion. Something he did not yet understand. And then, on the 6th night, it happened. A storm swept over the colony, the sky split with lightning and the wind howling like a beast. Rain hammered the rooftops, flooding the dirt streets and filling the air with the metallic smell of wet steel. Guards cursed as they tightened ropes and checked defenses. Daniel lay on his cot staring at the ceiling when he felt it again. That same prickle at the back of his neck. He sat up slowly. Through the blur of rain against his window, he thought he saw a shadow move. His heart raced. He grabbed his coat and slipped outside, ignoring the storm's bite. Water ran down his face. As he crossed the street, his boots sinking into mud. The colony was mostly asleep, the guards too busy fighting the storm to notice him. At the far edge of the wall near the storage sheds, he stopped. A figure stood in the rain. It was her, the alien woman. Her hair was soaked, plastered against her face, and her clothes clung to her frame. She stood tall despite the storm, her eyes locked on his. In her arms she carried something wrapped in silver cloth, glowing faintly beneath the rain. For a moment, Daniel could not move. His chest tightened, his breath caught. She had returned, not in anger, not in vengeance. She had come back, carrying something in her hands. She took a single step forward, rain dripping from her lashes, her gaze steady. Daniel finally found his voice, barely a whisper against the storm. "You came back." The woman did not speak. She only lifted the bundle slightly as though offering it, and in her eyes he saw something he had not expected: trust. The storm roared around them, lightning flashing across the sky, but in that moment Daniel felt only the quiet weight of her presence. She had not forgotten. She had not disappeared into the wilderness forever. She had returned, and she carried with her something that might change everything. The storm raged on, but Daniel barely noticed the rain pouring down on his shoulders. His eyes stayed fixed on the alien woman who stood before him, water dripping from her hair, her arms holding a bundle wrapped in silver cloth. For a moment the world seemed to stop. The thunder, the lightning, the hammering rain, all of it faded into the background. What mattered was her return. He had freed her days ago, believing he might never see her again. Yet here she was, standing on the colony's edge as if she had walked out of a dream. She stepped closer, slow and careful, her bare feet silent even against the wet ground. Daniel didn't move. His breath came slow and unsteady, his hands hanging at his sides, unsure if he should reach for the weapon on his belt or simply wait. But when she came close enough for him to see her eyes, Daniel relaxed. Those eyes were not filled with threat or anger. They carried calm and something even rarer: gratitude. She lifted the silver bundle in her arms and held it out toward him. Her voice was quiet, strained by the effort of speaking in his language. For you. Daniel blinked in shock. He hesitated, then slowly reached forward. His hands brushed the cold cloth as he took the weight of the bundle from her. It was lighter than he expected, though it pulsed faintly, as if something alive rested within. The woman stepped back, folding her arms across her chest as if her task was done. She said nothing more. Daniel looked down at the bundle, then back at her. "What is this?" She tilted her head, searching for the right words. "Gift." The storm's winds howled, whipping rain sideways across the yard. Daniel glanced around nervously. If the guards spotted her here, they would not react kindly. He gestured quickly. "Come, inside, before someone sees you." The alien woman hesitated, her eyes narrowing as if unsure she could trust his request. But then she nodded, following as Daniel led her through the muddy paths toward his small quarters. He slipped inside quickly, closing the door behind them. The room was dim, lit only by a flickering lantern. The smell of wet clothing filled the space as water dripped from both of them onto the floor. Daniel set the bundle carefully on his cot, pulling back the silver cloth. What lay inside took his breath away. It was a crystal sphere, no larger than a child's head, glowing faintly from within. Its light was soft and alive, shifting through shades of blue and green. Tiny threads of energy moved across its surface like veins carrying light instead of blood. The air around it seemed to hum, and the longer he looked at it, the more he felt warmth spreading through his chest, easing the tension he hadn't realized he carried. Daniel whispered, "What is this?" The alien stepped forward, her gaze gentle as she placed her hand lightly on the sphere. "Core. Heal." Daniel frowned. "Heal? You mean medicine?" She nodded. "Yes. Heal body. Heal land. Life." He stared at her in disbelief, then back at the glowing crystal. If what she said was true, then this was no ordinary object. The colony had struggled for years with sickness, with weak crops, with soil that refused to grow enough food. Something like this, it could change everything. "Why give this to me?" Daniel asked, his voice low. The woman lowered her eyes, her wet hair falling forward. "You free me. Others? Not free. You trust. I return trust." Daniel's chest tightened at her words. He thought of the cage in the ruins, of her voice asking him to release her, and of the risk he had taken by doing so. He had acted without reason, only with instinct. And now that instinct had brought him here, staring at a miracle wrapped in silver cloth. The storm outside pounded harder, the roof groaning under the weight of the rain. Daniel took a deep breath. "Does anyone else know you're here?" The woman shook her head. "Only you." That answer was both a relief and a burden. If the council knew she had returned, if they saw what she had brought, they would demand answers. They would take it from her, maybe even harm her, out of fear or greed. Daniel could already hear their voices in his mind, suspicious, demanding, filled with doubt. He rubbed his forehead. "If I show them this, they'll want more. They'll want to know where it came from." The woman's gaze hardened slightly. "Not more. Only this. Gift. Only once." Daniel nodded slowly. He understood. This was not an endless resource, not something the colony could simply demand. It was an offering, a gesture of trust. To ask for more would be to betray that trust. He sat heavily on the chair, staring at the glowing core. The warmth it gave off seemed to calm his racing heart. Already he felt stronger, clearer. Finally, he looked up at her. "You risked a lot to bring this here. Why?" The woman hesitated, her lips tightening as if searching for words. "Because mercy rare. You give mercy. Now I give hope." Her Voice was soft, but it carried a weight that filled the small room. Daniel felt something stir deep inside him. He had never been a leader, never one to stand in the spotlight. He was just a worker, a scavenger, a man who fixed machines and dug through ruins. But in this moment he realized he held something larger than himself. He held a gift that could change the lives of every person in the colony. He glanced again at the sphere, then back at her. "They'll never believe me." Her eyes met his. "Show. They see truth." The storm began to ease outside, the thunder rolling farther into the distance. Daniel sat in silence for a long time, weighing his choices. Finally he rose, wrapping the core once more in the silver cloth. "You should stay here tonight," he said firmly. "It's safer." The alien woman tilted her head, then nodded. She settled quietly in the corner of the room, her movements graceful even in exhaustion. Daniel took his place on the cot beside the glowing sphere, its faint hum lulling him into uneasy sleep. When dawn came, the storm had passed. The colony stirred with life again, voices rising as people left their homes to begin another day of labor. Daniel carried the silver bundle under his arm as he walked toward the council hall. His steps were heavy, his heart racing. This was no longer a secret he could keep to himself. The alien woman followed a few steps behind, silent and watchful. Heads turned as they passed through the streets, whispers rising quickly. By the time they reached the hall, a crowd had begun to gather. Inside, the council waited, their expressions sharp with suspicion. Daniel set the bundle down on the table and pulled back the cloth, revealing the glowing core. Gasps filled the room as its light spread across the walls. The council leader leaned forward, eyes wide. "What? What is this?" Daniel's voice was steady, though his chest shook with nerves. "It's a gift. From her people." All eyes turned to the alien woman standing beside him. She met their stares calmly, her face unreadable. Daniel continued, "This can heal. It can restore. She gave it to us because I freed her." The room fell into silence. Some council members looked amazed, others suspicious. The leader's gaze flickered between Daniel, the alien, and the glowing core. Finally, he spoke. "If this is true, then our colony may never be the same." Daniel said nothing. He simply placed a hand on the silver cloth, feeling the warmth of the sphere beneath it, and hoped they would choose to see it for what it was. A chance born from a single act of mercy. The glowing sphere rested in the center of the council table, its soft light spreading across the wooden surface. The council members leaned closer, their eyes reflecting the colors of blue and green that shifted within the crystal. Some were filled with awe, others with suspicion. The room buzzed with whispers, and Daniel could feel the weight of every stare pressing against him. The alien woman stood silently at his side, her calm expression unshaken. She did not flinch under their gazes, nor did she explain herself further. She had given the gift. It was now up to them to decide what they would do with it. Counselor Reed, a man with sharp features and a voice that always carried, leaned forward. "You claim this? Core can heal? Heal people, heal land?" Daniel nodded. "That's what she told me, and I believe her." Reed's eyes narrowed. "And we are supposed to trust her? An outsider? An alien who walks into our colony with something we cannot understand?" Before Daniel could answer, Counselor Mira, an older woman with soft gray hair, lifted a hand. "We cannot dismiss what we see with our own eyes. This object is not something we have. Its energy is unlike any machine we know. If it can truly help us, we must at least test it." The leader of the council, Governor Hale, sat back in his chair, rubbing his chin. He was a cautious man, one who valued order above all else. His gaze shifted from the core to the alien woman, then to Daniel. "Very well, we will test it, but carefully." The decision spread through the colony quickly. By the next morning, a crowd gathered in the open square as the council brought out the core. The alien woman watched from a distance, standing quietly near Daniel. People whispered when they saw her, some curious, others fearful. The first test was simple. A child had been ill for weeks with a fever no medicine could ease. Her mother brought her forward, trembling with both hope and fear. Daniel's heart pounded as the council placed the child near the core. The alien woman stepped forward, her hand hovering over the sphere. The glow deepened, threads of light moving faster inside. The child reached out, touching the surface. A soft hum filled the air, and slowly, the child's breathing calmed. Her skin, once pale and burning, returned to normal color. The fever melted away before the eyes of the crowd. Gasps rose, followed by cheers. The mother wept openly, clutching her daughter to her chest. Daniel exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. It worked. It truly worked. But not everyone smiled. Reed crossed his arms, his expression tight. So it heals. For now. But what does it cost us? Mira frowned at him. You saw it yourself. That child was dying. Now she is well. Do you still call that a threat? Reed did not answer, but his silence was sharp. The tests continued. Crops from the colony's struggling fields were brought in, wilted plants, soil samples dry and cracked. The core was placed near them, and within hours, the wilted stalks straightened, green spreading along their leaves. The soil, once lifeless, regained its color, moisture returning as if it had been blessed by rain. Whispers spread through the crowd. Some called it a miracle, others a blessing from the stars. Hope filled the air like fire, warming even the coldest hearts. For the first time in years, the colony saw the promise of a better future. Yet beneath the joy, tension grew. That evening, Daniel sat outside his quarters, the alien woman sitting quietly across from him. The sun had set, and the faint glow of the core still lit the council hall in the distance. They will argue, she said softly, her voice calm but certain. Daniel nodded. I know. Some see hope. Others see danger. She tilted her head. You believe? Daniel met her eyes. I do. Because I've seen what it does. And because you gave it freely. That means more than they understand. Her gaze softened, though her face remained unreadable. Trust is not easy. But it is seed. Seed grows. Daniel smiled faintly. He had never thought of trust as a seed before, but her words felt true. The next days proved her right. The council debated endlessly. Mira argued for unity, pointing to the healed child and the restored crops as proof that the core was a gift worth protecting. Reed pressed his doubts, warning that nothing came without a hidden cost. Governor Hale balanced between them, listening, but making no final judgment. Meanwhile, the people of the colony began to treat the alien woman differently. Some greeted her with cautious respect, offering food or small gestures of kindness. Others avoided her, muttering darkly about danger. Children followed her at a distance, whispering stories about the star healer. Daniel stayed close to her, shielding her from the harsher voices. He knew too well how quickly fear could turn to anger. One evening, as they walked near the edge of the colony, a group of men stepped out from the shadows. Reed's supporters. Their faces were tight, their eyes filled with distrust. You shouldn't be here, one of them said, his voice low. You and that thing you brought, we don't know what it really is. For all we know, it's a weapon. Daniel stepped forward, placing himself between them and the alien woman. She's not here to harm anyone. You've seen what the core can do. The man spat on the ground. Maybe now it heals. But what about later? What happens when it turns against us? What happens when her people come looking for it? The others muttered agreement. The alien woman stood still, her eyes calm but watchful. Daniel's voice was firm. You don't have to like her. You don't have to trust her. But you can't deny the truth. She saved a child's life. She saved our crops. If that's not enough for you, then you're blind. The men glared, but said nothing more. Slowly they turned and left, their footsteps heavy with anger. Daniel let out a breath, turning to her. I'm sorry. She shook her head. Not your fault. Fear is strong, but stronger is choice. Her words lingered in Daniel's mind long after. The next morning, the council held another meeting, this time open to the public. The hall was filled with people, voices rising in argument. Reed demanded the core be locked away, its power studied and controlled. Mira argued it should be used freely to help all. The crowd was split, hope and fear colliding in equal measure. Finally, Governor Hale raised his hand for silence. His voice carried through the hall, firm and steady. This core is unlike anything we have ever known. It has brought healing where there was sickness. It has restored life where there was decay. But it has also brought division. We must decide, will we let fear guide us, or will we choose to trust? His words silenced the hall. All eyes turned to the alien woman, who stood quietly near Daniel. She did not speak. She only placed her hand gently on the core, its light flaring softly at her touch. The people waited. Daniel stepped forward, his voice clear. I chose to free her when she was trapped. I had no reason to, no promise of reward. But I did it because it was right. And now she has given us something that can change everything. If we turn her away now, if we let fear rule us, then we don't deserve the gift she brought. His words echoed through the hall. For a long time, no one spoke. Then slowly, one by one, people began to nod. The choice was not yet final, but a seed had been planted. Trust, fragile but real, had begun to grow. The council hall was quiet after Daniel's words. The people's whispers had softened, the sharp edge of fear slowly dulled by hope. The alien woman stood with her hand resting on the glowing core, her face calm, her presence steady like stone against a storm. Governor Hale broke the silence. We will not make a final ruling today. We will watch. We will see what comes of this gift, and we will see if trust can grow. The decision was cautious, but it was enough. The meeting ended and people drifted back into the streets, their faces mixed with wonder and uncertainty. Some bowed their heads respectfully at the alien woman as they passed. Others kept their distance, still afraid. But no one tried to harm her. That evening, Daniel walked with her along the edge of the colony. The walls rose tall beside them, and beyond stretched the endless forest, its trees glowing faintly under the light of the twin moons. You gave them hope today, Daniel said softly. Even if they don't know it yet. The woman glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Hope is seed, but seed needs care. If left alone, it dies. Daniel nodded. Then I'll help care for it. They stopped near the gate, the cool night air carrying the scent of wet soil. For the first time since she had returned, the woman seemed to let down her guard. She looked out into the forest, her shoulders lowering, her voice softer than before. My name, she said slowly, struggling with the words in his language, is Elira. Daniel repeated it carefully. Elira. She nodded. Yes. Now, no more stranger. Daniel smiled faintly. No, not a stranger. The following days proved Elira's words true. The core continued to heal. It cured sickness, strengthened crops, even restored broken machines that had been useless for years. The people grew healthier, the colony stronger. But with every miracle, new arguments began. Some council members wanted to use the core constantly, demanding Elira stay by their side and show them how to control it. Others urged caution, afraid of draining its power or angering unseen forces. Reed remained the loudest critic, warning that they were placing their lives in the hands of something they could not control. Through it all, Daniel stayed close to Elira. He noticed how she never claimed the core as her own, never asked for payment, never demanded anything. She simply offered her help when needed and then returned to her quiet corner of the colony. Children no longer whispered in fear when she walked by. They followed her openly, laughing and asking questions she answered with patience. Some women began leaving small gifts outside Daniel's quarters, food, blankets, tokens of thanks for the woman who had saved their families. But danger was never far. One night, Daniel woke to the sound of shouting outside. He rushed into the street to see a group of Reed's supporters gathered near the council hall. They demanded the core be locked away, shouting that Elira was using it to control them. Others in the crowd shouted back, defending her, pointing to their healed children and restored crops. The colony stood on the edge of breaking apart. Governor Hale arrived quickly, his voice cutting through the chaos. Enough. This gift is not a weapon. We will not fight among ourselves because of fear. The crowd quieted reluctantly, but Daniel could see the truth. Trust was fragile, and fear still lived in many hearts. Later, as he walked back with Elira, he asked quietly, "Why did you bring the core here? Why risk yourself for us?" Elira's steps slowed. For a long time she said nothing. Then her voice came, soft but clear. "Because once, I was prisoner. I thought no one would free me. But you did. You gave me mercy, and mercy is rare. When I left, I carried your face with me. I carried your choice. My people, they hide. They do not believe outsiders can be trusted. But I believe different now, because of you." Daniel stopped, staring at her. Her words sank deep, heavier than anything the council had argued. He realized then that the gift she had brought was not only the core, it was herself, her trust, her belief that kindness was worth returning. "You didn't have to come back," Daniel said. Elira's eyes held his steady and calm. "But I did, because you showed me I was not alone." Weeks passed, and slowly the colony changed. The sick grew strong. The soil grew rich. The people who had once lived in fear began to dream again. They started planting larger fields, repairing old machines, building new homes. The core's energy had not run out. It seemed endless, as if hope itself had taken root. The arguments in the council grew quieter. Even Reed, though he still spoke his doubts, no longer found many who would listen. Too many had seen the truth with their own eyes. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Daniel and Elira stood together outside the colony walls. The forest stretched before them, bathed in golden light. "You could leave," Daniel said quietly. "You don't have to stay here." Elira's gaze lingered on the horizon. "I could, but I choose to stay. For now." Daniel nodded slowly. He knew her choice meant more than she said aloud. It meant that trust once given had grown roots too deep to be pulled away easily. Months later, the colony held a festival unlike any before. Lanterns glowed in the streets, music filled the air, and children danced around fires. It was a celebration of survival, of renewal, of the gift that had saved them. Daniel stood at the edge of the crowd, watching Elira as she moved among the people. Children tugged at her hands, women offered her food, men clasped her shoulders, in thanks. For the first time she smiled openly, a small but genuine smile that reached her eyes. Daniel felt warmth spread through him as he watched. This was what he had hoped for. Not just survival, but connection. A bond between people who had once been strangers, now tied together by trust. When Elira finally returned to his side, he asked softly, "Do you ever regret coming back?" She shook her head. "No, because now I am not alone." Daniel looked out at the crowd, the glowing lanterns, the laughter, the life that filled the once struggling colony. He thought of the day he had found her in the cage, the moment he had chosen to free her. One choice made without thought of reward had led to all of this. He realized then that the true gift was not the core itself, though it had saved them. The true gift was trust. Trust that had bridged the distance between two very different beings. And as the festival lights flickered in the night, Daniel knew one truth above all. Mercy had changed everything.